Pleural effusion, as you all know, pleural effusion is a frequent clinical presentation, at the same time a challenging clinical presentation to respiratory physicians. As Dr. James just mentioned, we know that the diagnosis always become difficult at the primary and secondary level. That's the main issue with pleural tuberculosis. In a high burden country like India, about 20 to 25% of pleural effusions are due to tuberculosis. That's the main issue. And what is pleural tuberculosis? Tuberculosis pleural effusion results from Mycobacterium tuberculosis infection of the pleura and is characterized by an intense chronic accumulation of fluid and inflammatory cells in pleural space. Why I mentioned this is previously we all thought that it is an antigenic response to mycobacterial protein that is producing pleural effusion. But it is not like that. It is really infection of the pleura. Either it is coming directly from the pulmonary parenchyma or it is a part of disseminated tuberculosis. So there is an infection and inflammation in the pleura. To introduce the topic, tuberculous pleural effusion is one of the most common forms of extrapulmonary tuberculosis. Because after lymph node tuberculosis is the second most frequent one. It forms about 3.6% of total number of tuberculosis. When we take the total number of tuberculosis cases, pleural effusion becomes 3.6%. And when it is in immunosuppressed or HIV positive patients, the incidence is very high. It appears to be 28 to 33% among those patients. Look at the breakdown of tuberculous pleural effusion among total pleural effusions in different countries. In India, we have 23.5% of total effusion is tuberculosis. Low burden countries, it may be very less, but when we look at the high burden countries like China, South Africa, India, the proportion of tuberculous pleural effusion is very high among total pleural effusion. This is one of our studies where we have done thoracoscopic diagnostic methods in the diagnosis of pleural effusion, and we found that 22% of tuberculous pleural effusion. Apart from that, you can see that the inflammatory component and the empyema component are there, and few of them also will come to this 22%, which will make up about the statistics as equal to what is mentioned in the earlier slide. Tuberculous pleural effusion predominates in with overall male to female ratio of 2:1. So more male patients are seen pleural effusion with tuberculosis. And the mean age of the patient is 49 years, tuberculous pleural effusion. But it is also seen that pleural tuberculosis is very high among elderly individuals, that is more than 65 years old, when compared to pulmonary tuberculosis. And TPE is higher among younger individuals in high burden countries. We see a lot of young patients present with tuberculous pleural effusion. What is the pathogenesis? There is a rapid neutrophilic inflammatory response within the pleura, which is symptomatic disease. This is very important because when we have a patient with pleuritic chest pain, pleural effusion, we aspirate the patient within few days, we get neutrophilic inflammatory response, which may be sometimes considered as other infection rather than tuberculosis, because we always believe that tuberculosis is a lymphocyte predominant infection. But earlier part of pleural effusion, even in tuberculosis, is neutrophilic. And then it is followed by protracted lymphocyte-driven immune reaction. And then granuloma is formed in the pleura. At that time, the ADA is released. Chances of a positive pleural fluid culture decreases with time. So initially there may be bacilli, but we know that it is a bacillary disease, and retrieval of bacteria is less in pleural effusion. And as the effusion becomes chronic, lymphocyte predominant, viable bacteria are contained, and retrieval is very less. How this pleural effusion in tuberculosis presents? It can present as tuberculous effusion. That's the commonest presentation to us. But we have already seen tuberculous empyema. Mostly, if there is a parenchymal tuberculosis which extends to the pleura, we may sometimes get tuberculous empyema. And later, In the course of disease, we get pleural thickening and pleural fibrosis. Some patients present with pleural fibrosis or pleural thickening in tuberculosis. Usually this is unilateral, moderate pleural effusion. Tuberculosis, we always see moderate pleural effusion and unilateral, but we have bilateral pleural effusion in 13.5% of cases, especially when there is parenchymal disease, disseminated disease, bilateral pleural effusion is common. Yes, in miliary tuberculosis present with the bilateral pleural effusion. And approximately 20% of patients with tuberculous pleural effusion is having coexisting parenchymal disease when we take a chest X. When we do a CT scan, it is little more. We will see even smaller lesions in CT scan. It will be about 40 to 85% of pleural effusion due to tuberculosis have parenchymal involvement as per CT scan. How do they present clinically? Most frequent symptoms are non-productive cough and pleuritic chest pain. And if both cough and chest pain are present, the pain usually precedes the cough. Most patients are febrile, but approximately 15% will be afebrile. Dyspnea can be present in some patients. If the pleural effusion is large, patient may present with breathlessness. And other symptoms, as we all know, for other tuberculosis, night sweats, weight loss, malaise, all this can be present. Then the most important challenge for a clinician is diagnosis of pleural tuberculosis. Definitive diagnosis of pleural tuberculosis depends upon demonstration of Mycobacterium tuberculosis, either in the sputum, pleural fluid, or pleural biopsy specimen. That is a consistent diagnostic modality. And presumptive diagnosis can also be established with reasonable certainty by demonstrating granuloma in the parietal pleura. We know that granuloma can be due to other diseases, but in a country like ours, when we see granuloma in the pathological specimen, we always think of tuberculosis as the first diagnosis. And apart from granuloma, elevated concentration of adenosine deaminase also is considered as a diagnostic modality in resource limited settings. And also now interferon gamma in pleural fluid can be considered equivalent to adenosine deaminase for the diagnosis of tuberculosis. Even though it is not definitive, we look for other evidence of tuberculosis. If we don't get it, these two investigations can be taken for treatment of tuberculosis. These are all very familiar to all of you. Pleural effusion, moderate pleural effusion. Rarely we get massive pleural effusion with the severe breathlessness as the symptom. This is the tuberculosis with parenchymal involvement, miliary tuberculosis with pleural effusion. Actually, when we go for a CT thorax of this patient has got bilateral pleural effusion. CT also helps in diagnosing pleural disease as well as associated parenchymal disease. When we look at the pleural tuberculosis, it has got three phases: exudative phase, fibrinopleural phase, and organizing phase. See, this we have this pleural effusion and contrast study. We can see the pleural enhancement. Here, this is empyema with encystment. And in this particular CT, you can also see that there are few lesions like trine bud appearance, which can be due to a parenchymal or airway involvement due to tuberculosis. So in CT scan, we may get some findings which are suggestive of parenchymal involvement, which may not be detected by X-ray chest. This is the patient which I have shown you the X-ray, where you get minimal effusion on the left too with extensive miliary opacities. Ultrasound also is an important diagnostic tool now in pleural effusion. And this is an important investigation because it is freely available. It can be taken to the bedside of the patient. Even most of the countries, it is recommended that you should aspirate pleural fluid after ultrasound guidance only. So we can easily use this modality for diagnosis of pleural effusion, and certain peculiarities of tuberculous pleural effusion can also be picked up by ultrasound, like anechoic to complex septated or non-septated or even homogeneously echogenic effusions. So septations and characteristic of fluid, everything can be picked up by a good ultrasonologist in pleural effusion. So it is very useful and easily available when we consider X-ray as well as CT scan. Is easily available, can be done at the bedside also. Mycobacterial staining and culture, I told you, is the convincing diagnostic tool in all forms of tuberculosis. Tuberculosis, sputum, and pleural fluid are to be sent for AFB smear and MTB culture in patients with suspected tuberculosis pleural. Sometimes patients may not be having parenchymal disease or symptoms due to parenchymal disease. Even in such cases, it is our duty to send sputum, induced sputum, for AFB smear and culture, along with pleural fluid for AFB smear and culture. So, induced sputum smear positivity was seen in 12% of patients, culture positive in 52% of cases. The combination of pleural fluid and sputum cultures have combined diagnostic yield of 80%. So 80% of patients can be picked up if you send a sputum sample as well as pleural fluid sample for culture. In a recent study, the reported diagnostic yield was 63% for effusion culture, 48% for sputum culture, and 79% for the combination of effusion sputum culture used in liquid culture media. And acid-fast bacilli can be found in pleural fluid in approximately 20% of HIV positive individuals too. What about ADA in the diagnosis of pleural effusion due to tuberculosis? Determination of ADA levels is an easy and inexpensive method for diagnosing tuberculosis pleural effusion. We know that even after extensive investigation, 25% of pleural effusion becomes not diagnosed, etiology could be found out. So at that point of time, ADA becomes very important. ADA level in pleural fluids are also elevated in HIV patients, even with a low CD4 T cell. That is very important because even with the low CD4 T cells, we could get an elevated ADA if it is tuberculosis effusion. A meta-analysis of involving 63 studies demonstrated that sensitivity and specificity of ADA and pleural fluid in the diagnosis of tuberculosis effusion were 92% and 90% respectively. So sensitivity is 92% and specificity is 90%. So the positive likelihood ratio was 9.03 and the negative likelihood ratio was 0.1 with ADA. Almost all patients with TB have a pleural fluid ADA level above 40 unit per liter. Usually, there are differences in different literature about the cutoff value, but what we take is 40 to 60 is taken as a borderline and more than 60 is taken as diagnostic. And this is most widely accepted cutoff value for diagnosis of effusion in tuberculosis. Higher the level, the greater the chance of the patient having tuberculosis effusion. High level of ADA can be seen in empymas, parapneumonic effusions, brucellosis, Q fever, lymphomas, and rheumatoid arthritis. These are the challenges we face sometimes when we do the ADA. Sometimes these etiologies also have a high ADA levels, making difficulty in diagnosis. So when we have a population with a high prevalence of TB, and there are clinical suspicion of TB, clinically we diagnose TB or it is presumptive TB, then elevated ADA level might be a confirmatory test. And moreover, ADA2, there are two isoenzymes for ADA, ADA1 and ADA2. ADA2 is more specific for tuberculosis effusion because it is mainly released from monocytes. And ADA1 is elevated in other conditions. When we have other conditions, ADA1 is usually elevated because it is released by lymphocytes. So usually in lymphoma and all, we have ADA1 elevation, whereas tuberculosis is specifically ADA2. But usually in clinical practice, this isotyping is not practiced. Another new modality for diagnosis is elevated level of interferon gamma and pleural effusions. So a meta-analysis of 22 studies showed that the overall sensitivity of the interferon gamma assay was 18% and specificity was 97%. It's almost parallel with ADA. There are now two commercially available interferon gamma release assays. You all know that. These are T-cell based in vitro assays that measure interferon gamma release by sensitized T cells from peripheral blood or pleural fluid. They are much less useful in identifying patients with tuberculosis pleural effusion. So it can be only used as a guide in high burden countries with the clinical suspicion of tuberculosis, just like how we use ADA. Most important newer modalities of diagnosis commercially available nucleic acid amplification test for tuberculosis detection of Mycobacterium tuberculosis specific nucleic acid sequences from specimens such as sputum and pleural fluid. So any pleural fluid aspirated, we should send for a molecular test, and along with that, sputum of the patient should also be sent, but it has poor sensitivity. Pleural fluid molecular tests have poor sensitivity, like 62% to 76% for diagnosing pleural effusion, and it is mainly due to presence of inhibitory substances in the pleural fluid, small amount of Mycobacterium tuberculosis in the pleural fluid, and technical defect of nucleic acid extraction. These are two studies from India. Christopher et al. Reported a sensitivity of a tissue expert of 45% for pleural fluid to be tissue expert of 45% and pleural fluid 14% of thoracoscopic sampling. So if you send this biopsy specimen for expert, it is 45%, but fluid as such is only 14%. And another recent study, the sensitivity of tissue TrueNAT was 51%, almost similar to Dr. Christopher's study. Tissue culture was 37.5, pleural fluid TrueNAT slightly improved 20%, and pleural fluid culture 14.29%. Specificities of all these confirmatory tests were 100% when compared to a reference standard. This is another biomarker recently introduced, concentration of interleukin 27 in pleural fluid. Pleural fluid interleukin 27 levels can be used for diagnosing TB with a sensitivity of 92.7% and specificity of 98.8%. It's a very good modality if we get that test to be done, because there is a high sensitivity and specificity for diagnosis. Interleukin 27 and ADA levels has better sensitivity than ADA alone or ADA2 alone, respectively, for diagnosing TB. So if we can combine ADA levels as well as interleukin 27 in pleural effusion, diagnosis of tuberculosis pleural effusion becomes better. Then finally, we will have to go for pleural biopsy. Definitely diagnosis of diagnosis of TB is achieved when Mycobacterium tuberculosis demonstrated in sputum or pleural specimens, or when epithelioid cell granulomas and or caseating granulomas found in pleural biopsies. So we need to do pleural biopsies. If the pleural fluid and sputum is not showing any positive evidence, we'll have to go for pleural biopsy to demonstrate either epithelioid cell granulomas or caseating granulomas. In one study of 248 patients with the TB, closed needle biopsy of the pleura revealed granulomas in 80% of patients. Acid-fast bacillus stain was positive in 25.8% of patients. Mycobacterium tuberculosis culture was positive in 56% of patients. That is a statistics when closed needle biopsy is done. Now, there are better modalities available like image-guided pleural biopsy as well as thoracoscopy pleural biopsy, which will give you a higher yield because especially CT-guided pleural biopsy gives a better yield when compared to blind pleural biopsy. And medical thoracoscopy with the pleural biopsy tuberculosis pathology in 99.1% of patients by demonstration of one or more of the following pleural biopsies. So when you do the medical thoracoscopy, you can visualize the pleura, see the lesions, take the biopsy, and one among the following can be demonstrated definitely from a tuberculosis pleural effusion. Either the biopsy specimen will show acid-fast bacillus, or it will show caseating granulomas or epithelioid cell granulomas, which are diagnostic of tuberculosis. This is a pleural thoracoscopy view of pleural effusion. You can see the pleural effusion here and few studdings here in the pleural space. This is a recent picture where there is a solitary nodule in which biopsy shows tuberculosis. So this is multiple nodular deposit in tuberculosis on the pleural surface. And the diagnostic algorithm for pleural tuberculosis is when we have a clinical and radiological suspicion, we do the pleural aspiration and induce sputum. Then go for microbiological confirmation. If it is positive, directly start treatment. If it is negative, if the patient is from a high prevalence area, then lymphocyte effusion with ADA more than 40. We aspirate the fluid, look for lymphocytosis and ADA more than 40, then treat as tuberculosis. If it is negative, repeat thoracosynthesis, do all this test again. And positive, we do treatment. If negative, go for pleural biopsy. If the patient is from a low prevalence area, lymphocytic effusion with ADA more than 40, we have two pathways. We go for a pleural biopsy and do accordingly, or consider if the patient has lymphocyte effusion, it is negative for lymphocytic effusion or ADA is less than 40, we consider other diagnosis and for further evaluation. So basically, we'll have to follow this algorithm for diagnosis of tubercular pleural effusion. And treatment, it is not that important because we are treating under the program. Everybody will be aware of the program conditions. We know that tuberculous pleural effusion is self-limiting disease, and the natural history is spontaneous resolution 4 to 16 weeks. But the problem is that even if there is a spontaneous resolution, half of the untreated patient would subsequently develop some form of active disease. So the goal of treatment is to prevent occurrence of active tuberculosis, to relieve symptoms of tuberculous pleural effusion, and to avoid the presence of fibrothorax. The later patient, if not treated, may go in for fibrothorax. Antituberculous chemotherapy should be the same as that used for pulmonary tuberculosis. Yes, you know that it's treated with 4 drugs initially and continued with 3 drugs. The duration of treatment is not extended as neurotuberculosis, other forms of tuberculosis, extrapulmonary tuberculosis. So we need only to give 6 months of treatment. And usually it is better to give a directly observed therapy because chances of non-compliance is very high. When the patient gets relieved of symptoms and pleural effusion is absorbed, they may stop treatment. And what about drug-resistant tuberculosis? Pleural effusion due to multi-drug mycobacteria comes from either by culture or with use of DNA-based methods. Initial treatment regime should be individually tailored according to the result of the drug sensitivity testing. Patient may be put on empirical treatment, but as and when the results are available, we should go for the definitive treatment as per the culture and sensitivity. And pleural tuberculosis, NTM are also reported, even though it is very rare. What about aspiration in tuberculous pleural effusion? The patient has dyspnea because of large pleural effusion. A therapeutic thoracosynthesis is recommended. Complete clearance of pleural fluid by pigtail drainage does not significantly decrease the incidence of residual pleural. We need not go for complete clearance of pleural fluid because we need to remove fluid to make symptoms better as well as for diagnostic purpose. And once the treatment is started, the other part of the fluid will be absorbed. And another method is to use fibrinolytic agents to prevent pleural thickening and pleural fibrosis. At the end of antituberculous treatment, approximately 25% of tuberculous pleural effusion show residual pleural thickening. However, this decreases with time and has negligible functional consequences later. Installation of fibrinolytics in symptomatic loculated effusion and empyema may hasten the resolution of pleural effusion. So, in this use of fibrinolytics indicated loculated pleural effusion as well as in empyema, and to reduce the incidence of residual pleural thickening. So, activated tissue plasminogen activator and deoxyribonuclease are the preferred agents used as fibrinolytic agents. This is the pleural thoracoscopy pleural view of adhesions in tuberculous pleural effusion. Next question is on use of corticosteroids. As mentioned in neurotuberculosis, there is no definite evidence to support recommendation for the use of corticosteroid in tuberculous pleural effusion. But in selected patients who continue to have severe systemic symptoms after 2 weeks of ATT and after thoracosynthesis, a short course of corticosteroid may be beneficial. There are concerns regarding use of corticosteroid in HIV positive individuals due to possibility of increased risk of occurrence. So better that in ordinary cases of pleural effusions due to tuberculosis, steroid is not at all used or indicated. And in rare cases where the systemic symptoms persist, patient may need a short course of steroids. Tuberculous empyema represents a chronic active infection of the pleural space, which is characterized by the presence of thick pus, pleural adhesions, thickening, and calcification of the pleura. So the main problem here is loculation and pleural adhesions. Acid fast smear and cultures are usually positive when there is pus. Penetration of antituberculous drug is impaired in empyema. In these patients, intercostal drainage is often needed to control the situation. So we need to remove all the pus in the pleural cavity along with antituberculous treatment, get a better outcome. In addition to standard anti-TB treatment, this patient may require serial thoracocentesis. Either you put an intercostal drainage, you remove all the pus, or do a serial thoracocentesis to remove the pus, or thoracoscopy with adhesolysis. We should remove the adhesions during thoracoscopy and remove all the pus from the pleural cavity. Or sometimes in chronic cases, we may have to go for surgical treatment like extrapleural pneumonectomy. To summarize, tuberculosis remains an important cause of pleural disease. Always consider pleural TB in the differential of patients with an exudative effusion. So about 25% of patients in our country, effusion patients in our country are having tuberculosis as the diagnosis. So we should consider one important cause of as tuberculosis for pleural effusion. Tuberculosis effusions are often self-limiting, even with ongoing infection. So diagnosis of pleural TB is always a challenge with the pleural biopsy and culture offering the best here. So we will have to always go for a pleural biopsy and send the biopsy specimen for histopathology as well as culture. That's the most important method to get the better yield. Drug-resistant TB is a real issue even in low incidence setting, making a resistance testing highly important. TB should be considered even in the absence of classical risk factors and in immunocompetent individuals. So these are my references for this particular topic. So thank you very much for your patience.